Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you all here. My name is Lucy Handley. I do adult programs at the Ridgefield Library, and I'd like to introduce Barb Jennes, the award-winning poet, editor, and educator who's published two chapbooks of poetry, Blinded Birds and Flown. Jennes is the Poet Laureate Emerita of Ridgefield, Connecticut, and she curates and hosts the monthly online series Poems from Connecticut's Four Corners through the Ridgefield Library. Thanks, Barb, and welcome.
Oh, thank you, Lucy, and thank you as always, Ridgefield Library. You guys are great. We are so lucky to have not just Ridgefield Library, but all of our public libraries supporting the arts, especially in times like these. I'm sure you've all been getting the horrible news about what's happening with grants in the arts and in education. So please, whatever you can do to support both of the above, do what you can. They're going to need us more and more. So tonight, speaking of arts, we have some wonderful poets, 5 poets from across the state who will be sharing their work. Before we get going with that, I just want to give you a little tease for the next, the June edition. Hold on, let me share this so we can see who's coming to join us. Next month on June 4th, we'll have Rhonda Ward, Elaine Zimmerman, Greg Coleman, Tracy Caldwell, and Arlene Damaris. So I hope you'll join us. You'll probably receive emails from either the library or from me announcing who's coming up, and we hope you can join us then. I also want to, I'm not going to put anything up, but I also wanted to give a little tease about a wonderful, amazing reading series that's happening this summer, sponsored by Ridgefield Library and also Keeler Tavern Museum and History Center. Every Monday evening in July, the 4 Mondays in July, we have 2 major poets coming to share their work and also some sort of musical entertainment that's related. The series is basically very important and very timely right now. It's Voices from Marginalized America. And there are four strands. We have immigrant voices, we have indigenous voices, we have LGBTQ plus voices, and we also have Black voices. One of whom is Danez Smith, who just was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. So we hope you can, it's a bit of a trek, I know, for some people. It's at Keeler Tavern Museum and History Center here in Ridgefield. We have it in the garden. If weather permitting. There's also a wonderful garden house where we move inside. But thanks to the library for their incredible sponsorship of this, as I said, very important and timely program. So we hope you can join us, and you'll receive more notification about that as well. So now we get to hear our poets for this evening, which is always why you come, right? So let me get my bios up here. We're going to start off with a wonderful spoken word poet, Sean M. Van Briesen. Sean is a poet, writer, and avid explorer of museums. He's also a huge fan of Basquiat and Richard Hambleton. And you'll find Sean as a renegade open mic poetry performer. So welcome, Sean.
How are you? So thanks for the introduction. I am going to start my timer and try to be mindful to share the time. Very grateful to be here. Thank you to all the artists and organizers, first and foremost, for creating a forum for the arts. Especially, I noticed that in darker times when people go quiet or don't have an outlet to vent their catharsis, things just get darker. And so hopefully we could be a light in this world and times to share and bridge opinions and beliefs and emotions and get it out in safe places, because as adults we have our shadows too. So I write a lot of ekphrastic poems and go to a lot of museums. This first one is written to a very famous piece by Van Gogh. It is at the Met in New York. It is to Wheatfield and Cypresses. So the title is called Wheatfield and Cypress Trees. It seems like forever since they last spoke or danced together under the starry night between the wheat field and cypress trees. The old museum calls to him from the city that never sleeps. It tells him things but never speaks. He can't forget the cypress trees or the look in her eyes. They were both mesmerized by the profane and divine. The train ride home doesn't seem the same. The seat next to him is empty for starters, and he traveled all that way to relive those times before he had completely lost his mind. Now she only exists in a dream. It's like an artist's rendition of a life that could have been, yet instead became filled with pain and blame. A love so tainted it makes him cut off his ear to consider the gift that resides in the silence. No serenity can come from giving that much of oneself, but a taker will take until each and every piece, until there's nothing left except madness and greatness. No, not like this. He'll instead have patience and simply wait for her to be between the wheat field and cypress trees. Thank you. I'll jump right into the next piece. It's written ekphrastically, essentially, to the Diary of Anne Frank. So that kind of gives you a good outlet to understand the dynamic. I performed it several times, and it is very dear to me. And I hope that some people enjoy the storytelling of my poetic art. Storms. The door was crashing against its jamb. They were pounding and yelling for me to let them in. Panic-stricken, my mind was frantic as I made my way up into the attic. The floorboards were creaky and it made me give pause. Couldn't give myself away making frivolous noise. Laying down on the floor, my eye caught a notch, leading down to the room so that I could keep watch. The door splintered and like a storm they came, uniforms like black clouds with lightning bolts for a name. Helplessly, I watched them snatch up a little kid. I wanted to fight, but instead I just hid. There was nothing to shield me and no storm shelter, and my best laid plans seemed helter-skelter. Outside, I'd have to avoid the storms, black clouds, lightning bolts, red bands on their arms. I turned my coat inside out to hide the star on my chest. It was rather cold outside. It was the only coat I had left. There was a hope that I could make my escape to the north where someone had said the storm had not yet formed. I traveled like the wind. I gusted toward northern shores as I passed by dead bodies and streets full of gore. I was hopeful I'd make it when I bumped into a friend, until he held me there and started yelling, "Juden, Juden!" And then the black clouds began to swarm, and I lost my life in the eye of that storm. Thank you.
Sean, when you read your poems, do you stand up and perform it?
I do. Typically, I'm in a room. Yes, I usually perform.
Can you perform a poem for us?
Huh?
Can you perform a poem?
Can I perform one?
Yes.
I shall. I'd have to redo my situation so that I could stand up, but I'm happy
Okay.
to do that. Sure.
Okay. Great.
Give me just a brief moment.
Good suggestion, Jonas. He's a wonderful spoken word performer. So
Let's see if I can get a shot that I'm comfortable with. I got a skylight in my house here, so let's see what we got here. Okay. The next piece that I'm going to read is an ekphrastic piece. I did this a year ago at the Manchester Arts Association to a painting called Old Lady in the Window. It was by Judith Goldstein. Judith, if you happen to be on the Zoom tonight, this poem was written to your art a year ago. So it's called Mama June. Mother's Day coming up. I know there's some healing here, hopefully. Mama June rests her frame against the bones of the old wooden windowsill. Her ears perk to the sound of little feet crossing the creaky wooden floor. She pushes aside the fabric hanging on the open-air clothesline in the windowsill set to dry, and hears the soft, small voice of her grandbaby asking, "Why, Mama June, why?" "Why what, sweetie pie?" Mama June starts a reply with a tear of nostalgia forming in her eye. "Why do you sit in the window and cry, Mama June? Why? asked her grandbaby with innocence in her eyes. Are you sad, Mama June? Is that why you cry at the window as your life passes by? Mama June shuffles uncomfortably and clutches her hands tighter still. Let me tell you a story about living life on this meadow's hill. See that perfect sunset in this scenic sky? Mama June points and her grandbaby coos. Yes, I see it, Mama June, but why? Baby, you see those birds flying high? Yes, but why? You see the flowers blooming nigh? Yes, Mama June, but why? Why does it make you cry, Mama June? Why do you cry instead of living your life? Why watch life pass you by until you die? Why, Mama June, why? Mama June looks her grandbaby right in the eyes. She made sure she had her attention before she began her reply. Sweetie pie, Mama June doesn't cry at these things because she feels sad. I shed a tear from my eyes because I remember raising your dad. And while Mama June misses your daddy so, she wishes he had been given a chance to watch you grow. I raised him what seems like so long ago, but for some reason the good Lord needed him home. Mama June pauses and wipes a tear from her cheek. When I see every face, son, the ghosts on the street, and I feel his spirit on me like a warm summer breeze, and I've asked that exact same question of why, Mama June still hasn't heard a fitting reply. About halfway through my time. This next piece is one that I can perform pretty well by heart. It's written from the heart about my relationship with my father and his alcoholism, and then my battle through alcoholism and finding sobriety. December 25th, 2009, I was able to be relieved of that obsession and never looked back. And so this poem, Sea Glass, is something that is very dear to my journey of growth and evolution and healing the sins of the father, as they say. So this is Sea Glass. Teens dance and drink as liquor bottles are guzzled and smashed off of the rocks of the jetty, while the ocean swallows up the shards of glass and works to smooth them into a thing of beauty. A little boy walks along the beach with his father, collecting sea glass under the hot summer sun. The little boy asks why, not really seeing the point. And here's what the father told his son. My son, this world can become a painful place, but things that seem horrible right now can be erased. With patience and hard work and a sense of duty, things that were broken can become things of beauty. The boy didn't quite understand the meaning other than enjoying the time with his father. They placed the sea glass in a jar in the window. It was a representation of their time together. As the boy grew into a confused teenager, his world began to turn ugly, lonely, and cold. He partied at the beach with all of his friends and drank all of the liquor he could hold. Bottles smashed those teenage nights represented all the pain he felt about his life. He left it there for the ocean to feel it. He left it there hoping the ocean could heal it. Many years passed as the teenager grew to a man and started a family of his own. He walked the beach with his young son, remembering the things he and his father had done. As he taught his son to pick up the smooth glass, it finally made sense and he started to cry. His son was picking up the healed pieces of his broken past, as his son was confused but asking his dad, why? Thank you. Let's see. A couple more minutes. I'm on the last one that I chose here, so I might be able to sneak an extra one or two in. This one is written ekphrastically, inspired by Jim Morrison's collection of poetry, The American Night. It's called A Fortune Teller's Wife. She was an all-American girl caught up in the American night, a cigarette in a non-smoking section, oblivious to her blight. Her hair was raven, her eyes were blue. She couldn't have been much older than 22. He stood there for a moment, mesmerized, unsure of what to say or what to do. He asked her one simple question, what she thought of the afterlife. She said she hasn't seen the future yet, but she's a fortune teller's wife. It was the all-American sunset at the typical teenage wasteland. They sat there in his father's car. He held her hand in his hand. He told her that he loved her. Without her, he couldn't go on. He said he wanted to marry her and start a family in Babylon. She blushed and pulled her hand away. The words cut him like a knife. She said she hasn't seen the future yet, but she's a fortune teller's wife. He sat there in front of his crystal ball, anticipating her return. She'd never been gone this long before. He was beginning to grow concerned. As he gazed into the crystal, the message he couldn't quite understand. Just then she walked back through the door, her pink suitcase in her hand. He asked her if she thought her path would lead her to the good life. She said she hasn't seen the future yet, but she's a fortune teller's wife. Thank you, thank you. I guess I got time. I could do one more. Kim, any special request? Just a dance, maybe? Or power of love? Just a dance? Just a dance. I'll do a performance piece. Here's another performance piece. I did this one at the New Britain Museum of American Art about a year ago as well. An art piece there. This was ekphrastically done. It is called Just a Dance. Like poison in his brain, the searing pain, the words begin to eat him alive, but he'll survive. He takes her hand into his own and leads their sway to the tone. The musicians play a somber song that reminds him of everything done wrong. And then she asks him, is everything all right? He replies, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? The stars sparkle overhead like tears shed. The moon shines on the crisp night's air. He doesn't care. They move so gracefully lost through the throes of their holocaust, the violin string nostalgically reminding him of what's meant to be. And then she whispers, is everything all right? He replies, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? The orchestra winds down, a familiar sound. Everything must come to an end, including friends. He steps away as he kisses her hand, makes his last request from the band. The night sky turns from blue to gray. She stands in awe as he walks away. She calls to him, is everything all right? He replies, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Thank you. My time.
Excellent. Oh, Sean, thank you so much. And thank you, Jonas, for that suggestion. That was really added a whole new element to these readings online. So thank you. By the way, I love Sea Glass, and I have you beat by 2 years and 1 day. So,
One day at a time.
One day at a time is right. Wonderful. Well, thank you. Okay, we next have, let me pull up my bios here. Leslie Bullion she's going to talk to you a little bit about, I have her billed as a marine scientist, social worker, and author of 9 illustrated collections of science and nature. Her books have been honored by Bank Street College, the National Council of Teachers of English Notable Poetry List, Parents' Choice, and others. So, and by the way, I'm going to put Leslie's full biography in the chat. But Leslie, talk to us about your marine science background.
Okay. Well, I studied oceanography as a graduate student. I've always been interested in science and nature, and I was able to go to graduate school without having to pay for it, so that's always a plus. And I had a wonderful time there, but it was during a time when environmental science was not getting a lot of funding. And I also have roots in social work, so I went from defending my thesis to going to social work school. So I've worn a lot of hats, and I think being a writer in general and also being a poet, having lots of different experiences really enhances our work. So I'm sure many people would agree with that. So thank you so much for inviting me. And thanks to Peggy, who's I see is here, for suggesting me. And I do write, I've written poetry since I was in 4th grade, and I wrote not for adults, but my own adult poetry for a while. But I do write exclusively for young readers and young at heart. And with my science background, I write a lot about science and nature. So that's what I'm going to be sharing today, kind of across the board, from humorous rhyming poetry to things that are more serious and reverential. And I'm going to start with that, with my book, Serengeti Plains of Grass. All of the poetry that I have is illustrated. Serengeti is really one long poem with stanzas in a poetry form that I adapted from a Swahili form called Utendi. And it's a 4-line stanza in Kiswahili. The first 3 lines rhyme, and that language has words that end in vowels. So what I did was, because a lot of our words end in consonants, I did a consonant rhyme on the end of those 3. And then the 4th line is a refrain. And the refrain in this book is grass, because that's the basis and the food source of the Serengeti Plain. So this kind of tells the story of the migrating animals that come in and out of the Serengeti shortgrass plain during the rainy season. And it takes you through the ecosystem from the grass up to the top predators and back. So I'm just going to read the poetry part. I have notes in the books for readers and lots of back matter. We won't do that. So this is just the poem from Serengeti Plains of Grass. Parched soil bed of volcano ash, roots asleep in a tangled mesh. 1 drop, 2, then downpours rush. First rains wake new blades of grass. Hoofbeats thunder under blazing sun, a great migration toward the plain. Grazing zebras first to begin clear away taller, tougher grass. Wildebeests feast on shorter swards. Oxpecker birds are stowaboards. Gnus trample roots in shaggy herds, spreading manure for growing grass. Plains are cropped where wildebeests grazed, leaving tender herbs exposed. Low ground growth is nimbly used. Fleet gazelles nibble new-mown grass. I like to have words have more than one job. So you can listen for that as I go along. Acacia leaf buds brush the sky. Thorns stand guard, warn, keep away. Lithe, rugged tongues let giraffes enjoy, chewing cud, stilt walking through the grass. Bathed by rain, Serengeti blooms, sun-faced yellows and scarlet flames. Waste paper flowers on tiny stems, scattered as handfuls across the grass. Butterflies flutter at nectar wells. Whistling thorns host ant patrols. Hoofed herds stir up grasshopper gales. Cattle egrets feast above the grass. Ancient boulder heaps mark the plains. Copies shelter hyrax clans. Rock rabbits gobble freshest greens and dart home from perilous open grass. Copies shadow moon-washed night. Dik-diks pair in a life duet. Hind-legged stretch for leaves and fruit. Elfin hiders in the grass. Mating termites ride the wind, nest, then chew chaff underground. Workers raise mounds of clay and sand. Towers sail in a sea of grass. Mounds are breached by spade-clawed swipe. Aardvark's tongue is a termite scoop. Trot to burrow as sun comes up, thick tail trailing, bending grass. Abandoned mound under night's dark wing. Dawn uncoils with a flickering tongue. Hyrax flees from poison fang. Mamba winds through whispering grass. Stalk-legged raptor, keen-eyed stroll, scans for scurry, slither, or crawl. Secretary bird wields claw and bill. Mamba whips from cloak of grass. Daring jackals, sly and fast, scavenge, hunt, and rarely rest. Frogs, fruit, carrion, no meal missed. Dik-dik fawn hides in the grass. Gazelle herds grazing, striped tails flick, tense, alert to cheetah's mark. Patient predator built to streak, dappled earth patches in tawny grass. Hang-gliding vultures, mid-air dives, cackling scrum lures hyena thieves. Strong jaws leave only horns and hooves. Hungry cheetah fades into grass. Plains rolled clean of animal scat, buried in tunneled nesting spots. Aerating soil and feeding roots, dung beetles till their garden of grass. Monsoon winds shift, plains grazing is done. Herds move westward once again. Columns swell, drawn to distant rain, weaving like smoke through stone-dry grass. Hoofprints linger in sleeping grass. That's the end of Serengeti. Thanks. So now for something completely different. Random body parts, gross anatomy riddles in verse. I started this book. I try to choose forms that suit the topic. So I started this book with a sonnet about the heart. And I decided to use a particular sonnet, the Shakespeare sonnet number 18. So when I went on looking for, I thought that's fun to find Shakespeare connections. So I wrote this, these are all riddle poems. I wrote this riddle poem about a body part. It's called Lunchtime. Thrice the empty pot has whined. Thrice times thrice the cavern gapes. The signal comes, 'tis time, 'tis time. In the cauldron mix and stew choice ingredients for our brew. Flesh of fowl ground into hash, blood of berries bled from mash, wheat paste wet with human spit, plant parts mangled bit by bit. Grumble, grumble, roil and rumble, acid burn and slurry tumble. Lumps of lard from fatted swine, shellfish innards laced with brine, spuds unearthed from mud, then fried. Mucus oozed from deep inside, milk that soured into curd, Borborygmus roars are heard. With a pulverizing rumble, churn and thrash the slushy jumble. So, of course, the stomach. I have a number of collections that are, what I call my critter collections, kind of what makes an amphibian an amphibian. And here's a poem in the form double dactyl, which is one of my favorites, kind of like putting a puzzle together. So all of these amphibians could be in a circus, and this one is called the knife heads. Jabbity stabbity, Bruno's frog, Greening's frog, cuties, until hidden skull daggers poke through their strong skin toxins, headbutt injectingly, venomous frogs can make predators croak. So that's that double dactyl. Am I doing okay for time still? Yeah, okay. So here's another one from Spaiku, which is a clutter of short verse on 8 legs, clutter being the group name for spiders. So there are about 50,000 spider species in the world. It's a lot of spiders, so I put a lot more poems in this book, short poems. So here's a Clarihue, twig lining trapdoor spider. These bulky burrowing trap-setter spiders are crafty underflap hiders. Their doorbells of fanned-out twigs mark the spot where ants may meander, then flip-grab may not. And I thought I'd read a little sort of the introduction from Galapagos Islands of Change, which is another whole ecosystem book that talks about the 2 seasons in Galapagos, the dry, cool season and the wet, warmer season. So it takes you from one season to the other, and again through the food web, but it's very mixed up land and sea because the animals and plants are, some of them are in both places. So the opening is Cool Ocean, Dry Season. It's 2 poems that are sort of facing each other. Cool Ocean. When steady trade winds sweep the vast Pacific, cool currents whoosh below, crossing thousands of miles until crash, they meet deep slopes of volcanic isles and rush uphill, upwelling, spilling chilled, nourishing waters through sun-sparkle seas, helping tiny floating phytoplankton use sunlight to flourish and fresh seaweeds to spread and grow over tumbles of lava boulders fringing Galapagos shores and shallows. Dry season. Overcast skies. Ocean-cooled air hovers, trapped by warm air above it, unable to rise. Day by day, dry by dry, island plants must bid goodbye to cloudburst downpours. Across volcanic slopes, across lowlands and coast, lush leafy greens hush to grays, browns, and creams. La Garua, the cool sea mist, sifts across the island's highlands, catching tip-top branches of giant daisy trees, then drip, drip dropping onto thirsty ferns and mosses in the moist forest understory. So that's the opening of that one. Thank you. And then here's one of the critters in the Galapagos, land iguana. This is land iguana hatchlings. Nestled in volcanic ash, soft eggs split, a daring dash. From barren birth, where no plants grow, iguana hatchlings hatch and go. Up crater's rim where hawks may hover, sprint down slope toward food plants, cover. Speedy racer snake won't slow, so bite-sized hatchlings hatch and go. Threatened, famished, in thin skin is how these youngsters' lives begin. Must grown iguanas scurry? No, but hatchlings hatch and go, go, go. So I had thought to share one more. How am I doing for time? Okay. So when I started writing these science and nature poems, it was kind of for me all fun and games, you know, because I love to explore. I go out exploring. I'm like, wow, golly gee, what is this thing? And let me learn more about it. But, you know, as we all know, environmentally, things are getting pretty serious. And so with all of my collections, I sort of address that in a way that is serious and tries to be hopeful too. So this is my collection, Superlative Birds. And the last poem in this book, as I do with most of the books, is end with something along these lines. This is called For the Birds. So the book is Superlative Birds. It's kind of like the world record holders of birds. In truth, every bird's a superlative bird. But climate change threatens our birds. Have you heard? One species in 8 is at risk. That's the word. The idea of Earth without birds? How absurd. We'll keep fields and forests. Birds need shrubs and trees. We'll use plastic less. It ends up in our seas. And pesticides, fossil fuels, much less of these. Let's save our birds' futures now. Won't you help, please? So that's it.
That's wonderful.
Thank you
Wow.
so much.
I put a note in the chat. I wanted you to hold up the pictures while you were reading.
Oh, yeah.
I felt,
Well, then it would take 3 times as long.
boy, I remember one time when I was substitute teaching in first grade, and I was reading a story, and the kids were on the floor. They kept getting closer and closer and closer, and the
Yeah.
next thing I knew, one of them was stroking my leg. It's like, oh my gosh, this is overkill. But boy,
It's great.
those are charming and wonderful and informative poems. So thank you. I love the idea that you imitated also Swahili style for the Serengeti book. So definitely you put some research into them. So
I do a lot of research. Thank you, Barb.
well, thank you. Oh boy. Okay, so next up we have Brent Terry, and we're going to be doing some screen sharing because Brent's going to be sharing some ekphrastic poems. By the way, if anyone in the audience isn't quite sure what an ekphrastic poem is, it's basically a poem, or it can be another art form written in response to another art form, usually visual art, but not always. It can be in response to dance, to music, to another literary work. So ekphrastic poetry, also known as ekphrasis, is a very popular trend right now, and they can be a lot of fun to write. So, okay, so Brent, and again, I'm going to put the full bio in the chat. Brent Terry's stories, essays, reviews, and poems are widely published. He is the author of 5 poetry collections and is an accomplished spoken word artist who collaborates with visual artists, musicians, and dancers. So welcome, Brent.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought I would start and finish with a non-ekphrastic poem. At least they're not ekphrastic yet, or reverse ekphrastic. And then in the middle, I'll do 3 from a collection that isn't out yet, but is a collection of ekphrastics and reverse ekphrastics. In other words, the paintings came from the poems.
Right.
And that is called Radio Free Nebraska. And They're all squares. Most of them are the size of an album cover, and it's full of music. So you'll hear some musical references in there. But the first one and the last one come from my book, 21st Century Autoimmune Blues. And it's one that I always say, I hope you judge this book by its cover, because it's gorgeous. So anyway, and I'll start with a poem called, right, grab the wrong one. It's called On Encountering a Rack of Hogwarts Panties at Target, the Husband Has an Existential Crisis. You need a pillow for the couch, a lampshade. It's 10 minutes until closing, so you take a shortcut through the acres of undies, and both of you are brought up short in a cartoon bazaar of cotton and silk. Startled by the plethora of underthings, candy-colored and licensed, archipelago of unmentionables adorned with Harley Quinn and Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, Power Rangers, and Powerpuff Girls. Hogwarts has an island all its own. Hangers slung with the come hither of Slytherin boy briefs, black trimmed in green and mockery. Crimson and gold Gryffindor hipsters hang all holier than thou, and buddy, you can rest assured you will never be smart enough, brave enough, wizard enough to fathom whatever magic they might conceal. Nor young enough. No, never again, and you can feel your face redden as you turn away from the rack from which bikinis dangled bedecked with the Hogwarts crest, navy with maroon or maroon with navy, depending, as you tell your love, upon whether the games are home or away. You both chuckle in your middle-aged underclothes, but you sense the flickering of long-ago flames. They flare unbidden, flashing their ironic underoos from the candlelit rooms of yesteryear, a little bit drunk, cracking jokes about spells and magic wands, until your love says, "Honey, you're sweating. Are you okay?" Moments later, safe among the throw pillows, your faces lit by 100 flashing televisions, it hits you. The perfection of Deadpool boxers and Captain America briefs, of Wonder Woman bloomers like magic lassos for the libidos of the unsuspecting, undergarments exactly as glorious, as ludicrous as the genitals they are woven to conceal. And then it's the witching hour. You're instructed to bring all items to the register, so having decided on the purple pillow with polka dots, you begin to make your way to the front of the room. But in the aisle between men's accessories and lingerie, you stop. Casually, you pluck a pair of Harry Potter boxers from the rack, drop them into your cart. Your love cackles, grabs a pair of homes, a pair of aways. You howl low like a wolf. And on the wall, the big screen TVs seem to have changed channels all by themselves. Every one wears the face of Nina Simone, and she's singing, "I Put a Spell on You." Thank you. Thank you. Let's see if I can make this work. I bet I hit share, don't I? And then I will do one of these ekphrastic poems. Let's see it. Share. That worked. Okay, good. I believe I will do this one first. All right. Everybody see that?
Almost.
Good.
There we go.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. This is one where it's a true ekphrastic in that the poem was inspired by the painting. This is by Laureate C. Luzajic, an amazing, amazing artist from Toronto, Canada. The original painting is called The Yellow Car, and the poem is called Prom. By the third time I burst into flames, my date had become adept with the extinguisher. Untroubled was she by the arpeggios of foam, the retardant lavender fog. Strapless and purple with polka dots, she was beset by rum and giggles. The cornfields scrolled past, coughed up a strange new alphabet, dank lingo from which we composed post-punk odes to famous firebugs, our high-speed chase choreographed by the screeching of nighthawks, the dumbstruck bunnies twitching in the brush by the ditch. Sunset outbursts haloed upwards like Billy Idol snarled their garbled Weltschmerz from behind the big-ass clouds. Lightning strafed the cornrows, and we were overcome by petrichor and unearned nostalgia. Dada doodads abounded in the antique shops, but hey, what did we know? It was 81, maybe 82, so her hair was stratospheric, her dress lavender. My tux, the canary in the coal mine where the biggest diamond in history winked like a Bond girl from the seam. Thunderheads gnawed at the crust of the cheese pizza moon, dribbled lemonade down their knucklehead chins. My Buick, too, was yellow, combustible, fighter flighting, every reflector flashing along a two-lane. On the windshield, the grasshoppers sacrificed themselves with a satisfying splat. In the rear view glittered the dance hall, which was really a burning barn.
Mm.
All right. See if I can find the next one. How do I do that? There we go. See if this works. Everybody see that one?
No, I think you need to stop share first on the original image.
I'm sorry?
I think you need to stop share first on this first image,
Okay.
and then you can hit share again and do your second image.
See if I can figure out how to do either of those things. I'm sorry. All right, so we go to I'm not sure how to do that. I'm sorry.
Usually you'll have a little red button at the top of your screen that says stop or stop share.
There it goes.
There you go. And then
now I hit share again.
Yep, you got it.
Okay. All right. This next one, again, is a true ekphrastic. That is Patsy Cline.
Yes, of course.
And this poem is called EYE, Fall to Pieces.
Mm.
And it goes like this. Each time someone speaks your name, a mason jar explodes. The face of the Madonna in the tomato springs a leak. Dry rot eats the hoses. The tool shed fills up fast with screaming and lightning and smoke. Thus are the pruning scissors left unfound, the potting soil spilled, roses amuck in my chest, hollering, silly rabbit, trips are for squids. Every Tuesday, my Tucson twang ices the donut ode at the open mic, howls like a southbound freight, uncorks a hootenanny of yodels, the odd coyote yip, a yawning yearning for the peyote-soaked heebie-jeebies of yesteryear. Dude, that saguaro looks like your mom. Meanwhile, at the Opry, you're walking after midnight, looking for a bottle opener, a banjo player, something to still the hillbilly hankering, that deep, sweet itch whispering from someplace untendered for far too long. Every lonesome highway between me and you is rain-slicked and moon-frosted, the echoes of all those roadkill hearts thumping like tom-toms in the wheel wells. Cradled like babies between shoulder and ear, our payphones play a busy signal serenade. On a napkin, I write you a poem called Fly to Me. Somewhere over Tennessee, the thunderclouds are going crazy. Crazy, crazy. All righty, now that I know how to do it, stop, share, and share. And the last one is a reverse ekphrastic. And the painting was written in response to the poem. It's called The Addictive Futility of Hope. And it deals with environmental issues and love. It's about bees. The addictive futility of hope is what she calls her latest installation, which is mainly bees on leashes and fading plastic poppies. The best art is collaboration between people and nature, she says, like Smithson's spiral jetty or a tornado during a tarantella with a barn. She steals the fake flowers from a cemetery out by the interstate, leaves pots of black-eyed Susans beneath the stones. She says that a stalk of wheat driven through a fence post by a twister tells us all we need to know about God. She says the membrane is permeable, but only in one direction. Every morning, she catches bees in a field of wildflowers behind her house. Every evening, she lets them go. She weeps when they sting her goodbye. She says the last song on every record is a forlorn buzzing. She says just watching the shopping carts drift across a rain-slick asphalt can make her cry. She trembles sometimes when a lover touches her face. As if a storm means the drought is over, she says. As if touching leaves us any less alone. As if bees ever did anything but love us. As if their stings are nearly penance enough. All right, time for one more?
I think we need to go on.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's a
but
good place to stop.
well, is it a short one or
Yes, it's a short one.
okay? Let's go ahead with it then, please.
Okay, this one, let me stop share. And this is also from the book 21st Century Autoimmune Blues. And it is called 21st Century Autoimmune Blues. And it's about going through a long illness, personally and for anyone who has. Even the flowers are trying to kill you, even the bread. Even the cells in your nails conspire to drag your hands to your neck and wrap and enrapture your song-encrusted throat. Your fingers make palpable the shadow that seethes beyond the earth's voracious curve, play the blues that stipple the tender flesh. It's a brand new year, and histamines are all the rage. Corticosteroids are the new black. You've become allergic to yourself. It's body versus antibody, that same tired tango, and it's way too late for dancing. Your twisted mister blinks back from the bathroom mirror, doesn't bother to floss. Your future is encrypted in the walls of your bone vault. You bury your feelings, but have to admit that things are getting grave. Whispers pass over your body like hands. The tossed postures of your everyday play shadow puppets on the kitchen wall, Punch and Judy headlining the Armageddon room. So you spend what's left of your youth laughing until you cry. Your eyes itch. It's just your body trying to kill you to save you from yourself. You're caught between a rock and a hardly place. You're going to name your new band Systemic Inflammatory Response. Your first album, what's been eating you lately? Maybe it's tick-borne, maybe a fungus. Maybe you're a character in a DeLillo novel. Your affliction is so postmodern. You're so meta, it's killing you. Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful.
Thanks,
Very
Barb.
fun.
Thanks, Judy. Thanks, everybody out there. And Cynthia, if you're out there, happy birthday.
That's great. I love how you combine humor and absurdity. It's like, I love that line, caught between a rock and a hardly place. It's really wonderful. So thank you. And thank you also for sharing the ekphrastic. It's like I said, a very popular genre right now. And I love Laurette's work. She really does a lot for the whole field of ekphrastic poetry. So, all right. So we're going to move on here. Next up, we have Julie Choffel. Is the author of the poetry collections Dear Wallace, and I'd love to have you talk to us a little bit about that, Julie, and The Hello Delay, plus a handful of chapbooks. Her work has appeared in New England Review, Posit, Orion, New American Writing, and elsewhere. She lives in West Hartford with her family and teaches at the University of Connecticut. So, Julie, talk to us a little bit about Dear Wallace.
Thanks, Barb. Thanks, everyone. It's really joyful to be here with you all and reading with you all. Um, Today, I just have to say briefly, I was really saddened today by the passing of amazing poet Martha Solano. And it's really, I feel like a lovely way to honor her work is think about poems all evening. So if you haven't read her work, go out and read some after this event tonight. She's got amazing poetry out there. So I will chat a little bit about my book, which came out last fall. It's called Dear Wallace, and then I'll read some poems from it. So a lot of these are poems that are the book is filled with poems addressed to the modernist poet Wallace Stevens, who I'm sure everyone here is probably familiar with his legacy as someone who lived in Hartford for most of his life and wrote many of his poems here. He is also famous for being insurance executive during his life while he was writing these poems, would often write them while walking to work through Hartford, and then also write them at home. And he had a family at home who he was sort of famous for ignoring while he would write his poems. And he doesn't really have a reputation as a family guy. And in one of this wonderful book that's of his journals and letters that his daughter Holly Stevens edited, she has this great note in the introduction, which I put it as an epigraph at the beginning of my book, which is, "One might say that my father lived alone." So that tells you a little bit about his relationship to family. and he had sort of, he's kind of famous for some of his antisocial behavior too. So when I was composing these poems, I had found myself living in West Hartford, just really literally down the road from where he had once lived, thinking about my relationship to poetry and how it had changed as someone with more demands on my time as a teacher, as a mother of young children, as someone who sort of had to, sort of redefine my relationship to art making, as we all do when life throws new things our way. And so I started thinking, well, what if I just wrote poems to Wallace? And they became this interesting project of, there was so much there to explore, both in terms of my relationship to this place and his relationship to this place, and, how to explore my frustrations with poetry and my love of poetry and the complexity of our relationship to art making and power and money and all of the weird stuff that our world is made of. So they're not poems about Wallace Stevens, I will say that. But there are real things from his life that make their way here and there into the poems. So, Dear Wallace, I guess you never had to listen to a highway. It's everywhere now, whispering. This used to bother me, but now I think it's a reminder of bloodlines, kinship, and elsewheres. Mostly it takes me shopping, another task you loved a little too. Here's fruit, vegetable, bread, fate in a dish pending. Sometimes when I think there's nothing and no one left, I imagine the folds of my brain holding something hostage. Negotiations useless. I wait it out. What did you sacrifice? What did you look into for others? Dear Wallace, today everyone managed to put on their pants. It doesn't matter how much I teach them if all they want to know is the words of the void. Today the sun rose and the void was undetectable. If anything, it runneth over my heart, my many hearts, my abundance of aspects, one with a great levity, one with a cracked ice pond, one with a handwritten note, one with a feather boa, one with a snake tongue, one with a thorny crown, and one to grow on, to keep talking me into or out of it. Dear Wallace, sometimes I'm rabid as you. I mean, I'm in my bathrobe. I'm hoarse and haven't even said anything yet. But I foam and froth at the edges. I think of things, but I keep them with me. Dear Wallace, many, many animals and insects lay eggs and then die, or give birth and die, or raise their young and die when the time has come. Humans keep living, may outlive even their own kids' lives, but still there's a beginning of the end of the self in that making. And clearly the kids make us older, accelerate our realization, and are dying. So what is left of invention, mother of boredom? Those faint touches of light are almost enough. 4 o'clock is everything. When I see my want on the horizon, I know what it's trying to tell me. Dear Wallace, oh, what you managed. Our complicity, just cities marked by money, bodies in and out of health, every claim to care for the flesh we live in and the land we're on, we submit our forms. 100 years ago, your body was your own, your market potential endless. The way we love the other through that, to live alongside you as the shared burden that I am, our way out in getting in. A tide is what comes and goes. Now you see it, now you don't. I try to break our patterns in small gestures that take lifetimes to accrue. I take you up and up the mountain only to slay another lamb. Or how do we put a price on what we love? Like you, wondering what Sunday is for. You in a place made for you. Not like you at all. A mother makes a place for others. Like all of us, if we're lucky. So this next poem has, I'm trying to think if I think there's at least one reference I should mention here. The book kind of plays with some pop cultural references here and there. This poem has a couple. You'll recognize probably a drowning horse from a famous movie that The Never-Ending Story, if anybody's seen that. And then there's a line, Rubens or Rubens, in which I'm referring to both the painter and then Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman. So, dear Wallace, but this is a swamp, they said. We're over it. Futile, slick pond of dumb potential, murk, trash, loved only for a density of living cells. We mean water, quicksand, or slogging. Our horse has been drowning for hours. Cypress, orchid, bones lost in the skeins. We mean battle is lonesome or blood comes fast. The monsters of maximum return will get you at every turn. Time lapse or voodoo, Rubens or Rubens, the entire body, the entire time. Um, all right. I have so much curiosity about, Wallace Stevens's wife. There's been so much written about Stevens, but we don't have all these elaborate biographies about, all the sort of extended relationships in their lives. Those things get touched on, of course, in works about their lives, but you always wonder what's going through the heads of everybody else who supported them and worked around them and influenced them and their thinking in so many ways, right? As we all are influenced by the people around us. Dear Wallace, though we inhabit the same place, it's many places now. It's 100 places. And when you lived, it looked like you in every face, ready for painting. Then it moved on. So it doesn't look like me now. Thankfully, it doesn't look like any one painter, and it doesn't need our eye, but it does need something ancient, something unused, perhaps your dough and someone else's attention span. What does it mean to contribute to art, and is it anything more than living? The dictionary tries to pronounce us. Men today saying they can't be themselves anymore. I'm not your wife, but I hope she challenged you like a universe in a dress.
Mm.
So I'll just do two more short ones here. Dear Wallace, what if the auspices of influence are merely offices, interiors in a shadow, carved out from the rest of our time? What if the holding is as good as the having? If illusion made off with you and never brought you home, would you be an award-winning father? Would you be the calico fawn in dusk light, or the mother hunched over and hunting in the dark? All right, and I'll end with this one. Dear Wallace, what if my urgency is the same as everyone else's? Even yours, especially yours, worth the same time you'd give to hunger. Did you see it? Asked the stranger, standing on her lawn, looking past me as I ran down her street. It usually doesn't get that pretty. A crease of orange in a corner of the sky. The turning things we forget to be inside of. So much of what we do is just saying hello to the minutes. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Oh boy, I love the Dear Wallace poems. What was the title of the one where you had the monsters of maximum return? That line. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, they're all just Dear Wallace.
Okay.
But the beginning of that one is, but this is a swamp.
Yes. Yeah. That's it.
So, I mean, I should mention probably that around the time I started writing these poems was also around 2016. So, we all know what was happening then. But also, I have been living in Connecticut a bit longer than that, and I've had sort of a complicated relationship to Connecticut because I didn't grow up in New England, and the weather's been new to me. Everything's different for me. But I remember one day, many years ago, I was listening to NPR and they were interviewing someone about the history of Connecticut on the radio. And it was this great show. And this guy who had written a book about it was he was referring to central and central coastal Connecticut as an upland swamp.
Oh.
And I just thought that was like one of the scientific, sort of like characteristics, right, of a way to name this place and its biome. And I'm very much into environmental studies, so I was fascinated by that idea that because it's very swampy here, literally in a lot of ways, it's very
Right.
wet. It's very much full of wetlands, but it's not a swamp the way I think of a swamp like in Louisiana or East
Right.
Texas, right? And anyway, so there are many kinds of swamps, of course, literal and figurative, but that's that one kind of started after I was like, oh,
Oh,
we
yeah.
are in kind of it's like a Connecticut swamp, its own special kind.
Great. That's great. Yes, we are. All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank
All
you.
right. So our last poet for this evening is Jonas Stanis. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. Jonas is a bilingual poet, a leading translator of modern Lithuanian fiction and poetry into the English language, and a literary theorist. Stanis is the author of 56 books, soon to be 60, by the way, 50 of which are collections of his poetry written in English or in Lithuanian, and also volumes of his translations into English of Lithuanian poetry and fiction. Jonas serves currently as poet in residence and professor emeritus of English at Sacred Heart University. So please be sure to check out Jonas's bio in the chat. It's going to kind of come in two parts because it's so very informative. So welcome, Jonas. The angled, I don't have my glasses on. The
That's
Angled
the
Road,
ebook
wonderful.
collected from, this is 50 years of my work, 50 years. That's strange because I'm only 25 years old. If you want to see what I've been doing in the past, that's the book to look at. It's don't buy it from Amazon though. Don't give Bezos any more money. Okay, buy it from some smaller independent bookshop. I've also been working on various anthologies. This is contemporary surrealist and magical realist poetry. I have a new one coming out from the same plus. This is Lamar University Press in Texas. The new book is going to be a dream poetry, contemporary dreams. Some of you may be in it. I don't know, Pat, are you in it, Pat? One of the things that I used to tell my students when I was teaching, do not write about anything that you know. Write about something you don't know. And they would get very offended because they were told from the time they were this big that they had to write only about what they understood. And I said, no, use your imagination. That's what writing is all about. So I have stopped writing personal narratives, and I've never really written confessional poetry. I'm writing sort of more surrealistic stuff. I'm going to read some of my new work. It's coming out in a small book in the next year or so. This poem is called Forgive My Voice if I'm a little bit slurry. As I said before, some of you came on, I had actually survived a stroke a couple of years ago, so. This one is called Making Love in the Kitchen. The light in the kitchen of the house next door goes out. They are suddenly blind, trembling to undress, caught in the sounds of things before the storm. They stumble in the dark in small circles, hoping to find each other again. One foot, her right, his left, nailed to the white planks of the wooden floor, each arm waving the thick darkness of winter away. It was a moment neither wished to keep, the measure of all things, of anguish of lack knocking on the window, falling to gray dust that coats the walls. The moon is obscured, but I can see the shadows of their odd dance. I am looking for a way out for them. My hand half raised, time standing still, my heart beating fast and hard. She flaps her arms like a painted bird in response, fluttering toward the ceiling pulled back by the nail in the floor. He strikes a match. There is a sudden rush of air. This one is called Why God Forgave the World. She asked how long it would take until God relented, her youngest son holding the dog by its tail, asking for the world to be forgiven, or at least come to its beginning again on some long and solemn afternoon when children kneel in their corners, waiting for the touch of a phantom hand, and reciting the sufferings of people asleep in other rooms. Death is not the measure of all things, they say, imagining the wild waters. The couple fell on time, they say, in the passion of surrender. At midnight, the dog whines softly, the boy's grip tightening, and she wakes once more, hears the high and silent slide of night, the tremor of derision at last in God's exhausted voice. This one is called How I Named Myself. My parents died before I was born, so I invented myself just as I invented them. It was reason enough to be resentful, a sensible response to a series of candid snapshots scattered in the kitchen drawer. I chose the wind to fall with me, the close of day half buried, the back of death's particular stop, coaxing the pale tones of consolation from the incorrigible stars. It was a dead giveaway, a measured pattern that traces truth on sibilant water, the flame that roots in its buried keel and consumes itself. The pendulum of day marks its desolate hour. The mirror that held their thin reflections breaks as it gives mine back to me. And this is called Sunday. In a room dead for 20 years, an old woman shadows, yawns, turns an empty coffee grinder. The clock shows Sunday. The cuckoo quiets, stabs a guest in the inn. A sleeping woman reads a scorched book, the terrible history of the demon Belphegor. In her palms are Saturn's broken lines. The double walls are filled with ducats and bones. An anemic voice runs up the cellar stairs. Coloratura dripping candles and tears. The wall rips, the rubber girl falls. Violins carry the bloody heart out to the garden. Okay. This is called Gathering the Delicate Bones. A woman I have seen somewhere before stands outside the house gathering the translucent gray bones of dragonflies from the window screens. She tells me to believe only what my fingers can feel. A dark hole appears suddenly, a wound in the body of space. She stretches out her hands, eyes closed, offering the thin bones she's gathered to the gods she recognizes with her skin and hair. Time gathers its own course, transfigures the substance of things. A broken corner of the moon falls against the window screen, and her hands tremble as she reaches for its delicate bones. Do I have time for one more? This is called Horus in Winter Wandering in Brooklyn. Horus, Horus, you know, that ancient god. I did not expect to see him through the interactions of the gray window. The odd little man dressed in green and black, turning around in the street at every third step to count the footprints he had left behind in the snow. To the yellow stairs that led to his door. One foot the frame of a well-worn sandal, the other the foot of a hobbled bird. He stops and starts like a cold ember, knows that the clawed foot drags the plow of time, scratching the earth as it scuttles the west, unpaling in the migrant orbits of stars. He knows that if the burning eye that hangs above him and the score falls across the sky, shadows will hollow the walls he stumbles against. Will eyed the red ash on the door sills. He hops across on one leg unaware. He knows the vellum and the flicker, the involuntary rule that flutters in the charge, and the woman he has not yet named who sleeps in the bottle and sash. The shadow is itself a shadow of a shadow. His nervous hand still prods the air. His feet again are cold. I turn off the lantern in the window. He shall watch his lid the burning eye. Okay. That's
Wow.
it. Thank you.
I don't know if you're going to have a chance to look at the chat, Jonas, but oh my gosh, you're getting a lot of comments about just the brilliance of and the language is gorgeous. You say a lot of these are based on dreams?
No.
No.
I have a new book coming out called
Oh.
Contemporary Dream Poetry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
These are just surrealistic poems, you know, not my own stuff, not about me. Who
No.
cares about me? I don't care about people's relationships. I mean, you know, so what? You know, so-
Well, yeah, I would like to spend a couple hours in your brain. The surrealism is wonderful. So, well, thank you so much. And
You're welcome.
thank you, all the poets this evening. Holy cow, this is a very diverse and eclectic evening. So join us next month, as I mentioned, June 4th. Please also, as I mentioned, support your arts organizations, your libraries, your educational systems. Get out there and protest, and keep us all here. Thank you, Lucy. I don't know, Lucy, you still here?
Yep.
Oh, there you are. Hi. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Ridgefield Library, and thank you, audience, for joining us this evening. Wonderful poets. Thank you. See you
Thank
next
you,
time, I hope.
Barb.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.